everyone. Welcome to Charmed Life. You have something to say? I'm here with my co-host Con, the handsomest kitty in the world, who really wants me to stop doing this, and he wants me to go sit down and snuggle him. You want to say something else? You want to sit in my lap? Okay. Welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. I am your host, Tricia Carr. I'm really excited about this episode. I am having a conversation with the beautiful, golden-hearted Amanda Ray. Amanda is an intuitive channel, a medium, a spiritual teacher, an essential oils educator, and an energy healing practitioner. Amanda and I work together in the Channeling Intensive, which is a program that Crystal Anne Compton and I are currently doing. The registration is not open now, but if you're interested in something like that, keep your eye out on this podcast and also on my newsletter. I'll post a link in the description how you can join the newsletter. It's the best way to stay in touch, I think. We do have coming up, though, the Intuitive Intensive, which is a 12-week immersive program to blast open your intuitive psychic abilities. But I digress. Amanda Ray is on this episode, and we talk about her spiritual journey, about coming out of the spiritual closet, and about psychic kids. Oh, I just love those stories. Check out this episode, and I will see you on the other side. Well, welcome onto the program, Amanda Ray. I'm so excited. We've been working together so much lately, and it's been such an honor and such a joy. And you're just such a light, and I'm really, one of my main complaints, though, I have to say, is that we don't live in the same state, because I know you are basically retiring from hairdressing, but you would definitely be cutting my hair. You have the most beautiful hair, too. So starting from there, I would love for you to just let everyone know about your journey. I was on your website and I read your beautiful journey. I love it. And, just what's going on with your work right now, your golden heart work.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I would probably be able to figure something out with your hair if you ever want to stop in town. So I am. I just recently decided to leave the salon that I was at. The opportunity it unfolded and presented itself, and I didn't see it coming. And I thought, well, hey, why not? And so I took the leap of faith, and I'm going to do this full time. So I'm excited. I didn't realize how excited I was until it all really the first day I woke up and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to go to the salon.
I have been, so you've been in a longer transition, you've been building this career and everything. And I did the same thing. It was a segue from my old career to the new one. And the old career was creative and everything. So that was cool. And so it's been almost 2 years for me that I've been completely, retired from the old career. But just a couple of weeks ago, I woke up and I was like, whoa, I don't have a job. I mean, I do have a job, but I don't have a job that someone else gave me, just like last week or something.
This week. That's funny. Yeah. Well, I every once in a while have to stop and think, as soon as I get up in the morning, I'm like, what day is it?
How many clients do I have?
It doesn't matter. But what day is it? So
yeah, that's really cool.
It's been neat. Where do I even start? So I didn't intentionally think that I was going to really make the switch and do spiritual work full time. I really wanted to. It was something that I dreamt about and fantasized about. But when it really came down to it, I thought, I don't even know, I don't know if that'll actually happen. Yeah. And I'm just going along doing my thing. And really what had put it into focus for me was the pandemic. And so it was uncomfortable to be at work because of all of the rules and regulations. And it is just, a different vibe out there with everybody. And so every day I went to work, I prayed that however I need to be that light for anybody and whoever and however that was, that I would show up in whatever way that was needed, as long as I was also taking care of myself. And that was a very delicate balance in those crazy times. And so, that's really what helped get me through the end time of it, because it got pretty turbulent. And I had to give myself that time to mourn it when it was done, because it was such a transition, and it was like slow, fast, stop, done. I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
So it's been awesome being on this journey now.
Right. And There's always opportunities in great, and just in great times and times where there's a lot going on. It's almost like it was designed, it can feel like it was designed just for you to be able to make that shift over. I like that you mentioned mourning, because even if when you're doing a transition, something like career or something, I think that that's important. And actually 2 or more years before I transitioned, and I was still in my transition, but you know what I mean? I like hadn't left the old career behind. I loved that old career. There were things about it that I loved and I had built. And I had this astral dream, and while I was dreaming, it became astral, so like an astral projection, that I had to dispose of my own dead body. It was like lying on a slab in a morgue, and it was still warm, and I was outside of it, and I was like, "Ugh," like I was all creepy. And I was like just talking to my guides in the dream, like, why is this happening? And they said, you need to feel it this viscerally for your transition. Like you need to like really, it is this significant to you. Even though I love the thing I'm moving into, and it's way more aligned for me, it's nothing to sneeze at. And we're kind of in big transitional times anyway in the United States right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mentioning dreams, I keep a dream journal, and I have since the beginning of 2017. And so it's really cool now that I've come this far out to read back and go over those dreams and see what's come to fruition from those. I had 3 dreams about the salon, and it started actually at the end of 2017 about the salon kind of falling apart or doing a big transition. And each dream got more and more clear. And the third one was in February of 2020. And I didn't see it coming, but I kept telling my best friend who I worked with this at the time too, I kept telling her about my crazy dreams. And then when we both decided to split from the shop, she kept reminding me, because I was panicking. I was like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Is this really, but even though looking back at the path, I mean, there was absolutely no doubt. Yeah. I mean, I was clawing at it, and it still was like, bye, you're done, keep going. And so it was neat because she would remind me, your dream, Amanda, your dream. And so that was kind of confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm super stoked about that. And that makes me feel good too about the transition.
Well, I notice that really all of the kind of service positions, there's a lot. I mean, we want to say light workers, but the service professions are just filled with people who are there to be the light. And I've worked with, as the teacher or coach or reader, with many different hairdressers. And my sister's a hairdresser. And I actually, do you know that when I was in my early 20s, for I think it was like 3 years, I worked for Vidal Sassoon Academy. I worked in the administrative offices. I'm not a hairdresser at all. But anyway, so the hair industry has always kind of been a part of my world in some way. But you guys are usually very sensitive. You're up there working on the crown chakra, pulling it in with your hands. My goodness, you're just like pulling in the energy and sending heart energy through your hands. Oh yeah, all of my hairdressers are very sensitive people, and it's again, that service profession. It's a forerunner. It like makes a lot of sense, right? That you end up just going headlong into this.
Absolutely. Looking back over my career as a hairdresser and even to the childhood, I mean, I've always been that type of person who wants to serve and who wants to be hands-on and who wants to be in the creative. I went to college for art education and then changed roles last minute. But mediumship has always been a part of me too. And it got pretty interesting in the last couple of years of doing hair in the salon, because I started realizing that gift was coming back because I had tried to shut it out. And so I'd be doing somebody's hair and we'd be in a great conversation. All of a sudden I could feel this energy move in, and I was like, oh boy. And then I would say in my mind, I would say, you can't be here right now, because if you really love this person, you won't do this to me, because I'm afraid I'm going to burn their hair off. So it was interesting to see how they sort of overlapped until I was able to move out of that career.
And so you mentioned, as a child, so for you, there was an activation of your psychic and mediumistic senses from the time that you were very young.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when. I just remember always talking about those things, and having tea. I had tea with a little boy in my room all the time, and my mom would fill the coffee pot or the little tea kettle for me, and okay, here you go, so I'd go up in my room and have full-blown conversations. I'd hear noises, I'd talk about people, and they were always like, okay, man.
Yeah.
Sure. But it was a lot of, like, a little boy I can actually validate, because when I did some work with ancestral healing, my grandfather had come to me in a meditation and said that he actually sent his little brother to me to entertain me, because I was an only child at that time and my parents were split up. And that he sent me this little boy named Steven to keep me company and bring, cheer me up. And so I got out of the meditation and I wrote it all down. I thought, that's interesting. So I went on to Ancestry, where I had been doing some work, and lo and behold, I didn't know this, but my grandfather had a little brother who'd passed when he was 6. His name was Steven.
Wow.
And so I took that to my mom, and my mom said, oh yeah, I think he did. I never met that grandfather because he'd passed away before I was born. But it was very significant in my really solidifying my experiences in my own beliefs and giving me that validation that I needed just in my own mind.
Right. And that's so similar to some of my, I had imaginary friends, and all of my sisters and my mom still remember them and remember their names because they were so a part of our family and everything. And yes, I had a similar thing where an ancestor came to me in meditation over and over, giving me her names. It ended up being my great grandmother, who was not on the planet at the same time, didn't know her name, and did the search in ancestry.com and got that validation. And she was one of those imaginary friends, and I called her Little Mama. That's what she called herself to me when I was little. One of my imaginary friends was Little Mama.
I love that story.
Do you? Yeah, probably some people have probably heard it before. Now, it's interesting to me because, like, I would have been a person, and before I kind of like opened up as an adult back to these abilities and awarenesses, I would have said I wasn't a psychic kid, because that's just what I assumed. But then after I got into it, then I kind of, my imaginary friends, this. And then also through, like, in my teenage years and early 20s and my experience in the church, in the Christian church, I could see, that was actually mediumship. That was psychic. And that was, you know what I mean? But I was at a point before where I really thought, no, I mean, I just don't have those sensitivities like other people have. Did you have that, or you kind of always have this through line of feeling like, okay, I have this thing I'm trying to shut off or turn on?
It was a mix. It just depended. I was literally like, some days I thought, there's really something to this. These people need to believe me. Like, why doesn't everybody, like, even at church, I would bring it up to a Sunday school teacher and go, well, okay, well, if they were able to talk to people in the Bible that had passed, or visitation dreams, like, if that was a thing, then why wouldn't it be okay for me? And they would shut it down, and then I would feel very insecure and very self-conscious about what I would, so I didn't share a whole lot in church, because we grew up, that was a very, very big part of my upbringing. And I would say it really bounced around between knowing I know I'm different versus, man, I got a really wild imagination, like they say. And I was never really fearful about it until I began to tell more people and, like, really talk about it more and more and more. And I would see people's responses, and then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And then when it would happen, it would kind of weird me out a little. And then I wanted it to stop, because I just wanted to be normal, like my brothers and sisters.
And now, though, if you tell people about it, what is your experience now? Is it the same as before? When, I don't know, I just wonder if when we are not quite embodying it or aligned with it or okay with it ourselves, if we, have more of those experiences of people responding to us in a kind of strong way, or a negative way even, or is that still the case? Or do you find it more like, or maybe it's just because we find our tribe too, right? And we find our community and we find the like-hearted people. What do you think?
That does help, having your tribe. Like, I can go have a conversation with somebody who doesn't believe, and I can tell them, if they're not 100% down with it, I can feel that empathically.
Sure.
Like, so sometimes it's hard because I'll leave the conversation going, did she think I was crazy? Or did I feel that like, on, they're in their energy kind of pull back a little bit. So I'd say it's probably 50-50, but I don't really mind.
Right. Well, and I was the person probably that someone, in my times of my abstinence from my spiritual abilities during that time where someone was telling me about their experience and I was like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but I think it planted a seed and eventually it was something that benefited me later. And so that's what I think when we feel a little bit, I don't know, sometimes it's not just being led to talk about it because I don't think we have to. I'm certainly not of the mind that we're evangelizing or proselytizing anyone, but if it's your career, it's like, what do you do? Well, so there's almost sometimes no avoiding it when your whole life is centered around it. But I do find that really being more comfortable with it. And also I like all sides of it too. So I have people in my life who are very cerebral. So I love just talking to them about it, if I can, from a cerebral standpoint. And I just like exploring all the aspects of it. And so I think however we're having those conversations, I think that if we're being kind and compassionate to ourselves and to them, then they're turning out exactly the way they're supposed to.
Absolutely. I had to have that conversation. Well, what do you do? Well, what are you going to do? Oh, I don't even know how many times when I let all my clients know, like, hey, I'm stepping back and I'm not going to find another place. They're, oh, well, what are you going to do? Well, some of them were like, oh, I'm not surprised one bit. And I really didn't realize how much I let that part of me be seen because I thought I did a better job at keeping it under wraps, and I didn't. You know, some of those things that are a natural part of you, you can't hide them and especially if somebody's really paying attention and participating in those conversations with you and listening.
Yeah. My family and my sisters, when I told them all trepidatiously, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Just like not a hitch. Sure. And then also like another sister's like, well, sure. I mean, like Nanny, our grandmother is psychic and it's like, it's a part of our family. And I was like, well, nobody ever talked about it. Dang it.
Don't even get me started on that part.
Yeah. So you do ancestral healing. What's that work like? Tell me about that.
Well, it started when I was taking an Akashic Records course. And the night before the course started, my grandfather came into that meditation and he was talking about how, even when people who are here in our family lineage pass on, they're still showing up to support us in the spiritual world. And how they can, they can't really intervene completely, but they can kind of try to, pull some strings and hint and guide us along. And as I started working through that, what I didn't realize was happening was the very next day, my biological father was going to come crashing back into my life. And so when that happened, I had to take a big look at like, well, why is this happening? And what is this trying to teach me? Otherwise, I would have freaked out.
And your biological father was still here with us, or he was passed, you're saying?
Yes, he's still here with us.
Okay, I see.
I'd been estranged for roughly 25 years. And I'm his only daughter, his only family member. And he had a stroke. And he was an alcoholic. So I didn't see him, he chose to walk away. My mom was always trying to support that relationship. But anyway, it's through meditation and energy work where I really started to see the connection and know that, okay, so this is the reason why, because what I wanted to do is get angry and put my hand up and be like, no, I don't need to take care of you. I don't need to be involved because you did this to me. My soul wouldn't allow me to do that. I wanted to, but my soul, there was just this big piece of me that really just saw him as a soul and not as the person who he was and what he did here, what he did to me, or the choices he made for my mom and all of that. And so with working through that with meditation and energy work, it really, and even some dream work, it really helped me understand and kind of untie that knot of all those different energetic cords and really take this higher perspective and look at the male archetype in my family has always left the children. whether it had been alcoholism, which was every other generation super, super solid, or they just chose to have another life. And I used Ancestry to back up what I was finding, because I don't know what these people did all those years ago. But once I found that, I had the most amazing meditation where my guides came in, my grandfather came in, and I had Archangel Michael behind me. And it was really neat to see, because he showed me the people, all the souls on this side, they were all kind of gray, very muted colors. No, very gray, no colors. And they were all the ancestors that were getting healed by me making this connection and doing this work. Wow. And then in front, I just got my chills.
Me too.
In front of me.
On the same side. I got it on the same side as you.
That's always my validation.
Oh, on the right side. Yes, of course. We're talking about the father's line. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then in front of me were my grandparents and my two aunts from this, from his immediate family. And they stepped forward and they were just like loving on me. And then they told me to keep going with what I was doing. And then I was, strong, and then I was made to do this work. And then they showed me this half, and this half was really, really cool because it was pastels. And that was the future generation of souls for our family. And I was just like, my lips like quivering, because it gets me all in my feels when I talk about it. But then my father, I do have to give myself some grace with that, because I do, every once in a while feel like, I don't want to call you today.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to, and I have to allow myself that space, because
Sure.
I'm still working through that. But it was interesting, because doing the energy work through that too, on myself, when I started repairing that and doing I was guided through meditation, where to put my hands and how to do it, and my own body, and then in a vision of my own body, kind of working and clearing things that way. For my kids, it made an honest believer out of me, because the very next day, my one son was super ill, but he didn't feel bad. He was just releasing. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, my other son, he kept throwing up, and he's like, but I don't feel sick. And he didn't look pale or anything. And then when I had talked to my father on that Monday, he said he was very sick over the weekend. He had the same stuff that my kids did.
Wow. And
they don't see each other. They don't know each other. And I hadn't been to his house to transfer any germs or anything like that. And so it was kind of neat to see that that energy was really being purged from their spiritual bodies and their souls.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And so you do this work with others too? You do ancestral work with others? Is it a specific service, or is it like a part of everything? Do you actually just do it intuitively, or do you also look at their records or something like that? Because I love the depth that we can go into the ancestry, as both you and I connected with a grandparent or great-grandparent who we didn't even know. And I think sometimes there's a misconception. People are like, but I didn't even know that person, or you know what I mean? Or if sometimes, when you're doing mediumship readings and it's like, there's a person here, they look like they're about 17 years old, and they say they died of a car accident. And they go, well, yeah, this girl in my class when senior year died in a car accident, but we weren't that close. And it's like, yeah, but you still have these ties, And so even friendships almost sometimes can play in the ancestry, I think. But so, with people as a service, can you describe like how you work with others in that way, in that kind of energy healing? Because it's energy healing. Oh, it's energy healing, mediumship, intuitive. It's the whole bag, isn't it?
It's just one big ginormous service. Yeah. I've been working on this, on how to actually go about creating an option to offer to my clients, because it looks different every time. A lot of it comes through doing like the Reiki and the etheric touch and hands-on healing. It's a little bit of a blend of all of it. And what I ended up, like, for example, I had a session not too long ago where there was a lot of ancestral trauma and women, and it was all around the hips. And I, as I just took my hands over, there was just like, it was almost like a bowling ball in her solar plexus and area. sacral, and then it was just really on her hips. And I that's when the grandmother and the aunt stepped forward, and it was from her father's side, and really helped me relay that ancestral knowledge to her, and for her to go, oh yes, that was yes, and that was true. So, you know, it would have been really cool to just be like, let me just check ancestry real quick. But I didn't have the ability to do that. But she thankfully knew enough to validate. And so it was a lot of like about the women like speaking out and things like that. And so it was kind of caught up around her hips. And so we kind of freed that up a little bit, and she's working on that. And it's really cool because I've heard back from her, and I know her too. So she's been able to give me some validation, and she's like, yeah, it was really neat to see. And speaking about that with her, the female relatives and her family, it was interesting because they definitely noticed some little things shifting in themselves too. So, but as a service, I'm still not exactly how to package that, because maybe it comes through so different.
Yeah, maybe it's just a part of, I mean, it's just an emphasis that happens with your services because you are so mediumistic as well. So that makes a lot of sense, you know. I mean, mediumship has, a lot of times mediumship dealing with past loved ones, a lot of times it is ancestral because, you know, sometimes people don't really have people close to them that they're kind of, who have passed that they want to, you know what I mean? Like, and so it ends up being even people who are like more dedicated to being a medium, they're talking to grandma and they're talking to great grandma because they don't have, because their parents are still here, and you know everyone else that they know is still kind of here. So I think it's a perfectly natural just flow with it. I mean, my services are like that. It's like whatever we have to do, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. It'll show up. Yeah. But I love that. I love that emphasis. And you also, because of your own childhood and because of your children, do you work with others? I don't know, to give them counseling about how to raise those psychic kids, or do you work with psychic kids? And if you don't, you should work with psychic kids because it's so needed. People need it so much, especially now with all of the children that are coming in turned on, not, they are just keyed in, turned on. All of the children are special children now, it seems, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is one of my big dreams is to do, I would love to have my own like center, my own space, my own office, and that I could have like intuitive classes for kids and for their moms, because like there's no book on raising children, but there's really no book on raising psychic children. And let me tell you, my kids are actually the driving force of why I actually decided to get brave and take the intuitive intensive and really start to give myself the chance to grow in that. And so kids have a way, and I just want to get in there before they get, you know, before they shut it down or they get these crazy beliefs, and it kind of just shifts their path. And I would love to work with psychic kids and really help them and their moms understand so that everybody's comfortable and there's no fear. And I want them to realize how beautiful it is and how perfectly they were created.
Yeah, I've actually had in my history, several clients with psychic kids, and it's because of their kid that they kind of opened to their own abilities. They weren't really, and they're like, we're both having a spiritual awakening, me and my 6-year-old daughter. You know, and it's like, and they're always like, you know, they are so much more tuned in. And so I can only imagine, because I'm not a mother, the kind of like, I don't know, pressure in a sense, or the like this momentum that you have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to clean up my stuff when you realize that my kid has this going on. And so I think that is it's like I said, really a great need. I've had clients say, can you talk to my kid? I'm like, I'm not even a mother. I'm not qualified to talk to your kid. And they're like, yeah, but you're just like her. I'm like, but I'm 46.
Doesn't matter.
But
I think
she relates to you
anyway.
Yeah, but she relates to you. I'm like, okay. So yeah, that is so needed. I just pictured, like you said, when you have your own center, do you remember the scene in The Matrix of the kids that were at the Oracle's place and they were like bending spoons and they were levitating things? That's what I pictured your center to be. All these kids.
Why not?
Like,
yeah. Why not? I mean, why not? That sounds like fun. I would do it.
I was actually, and it's interesting because, you know, synchronicity. I was just this morning I'm reading the Convoluted Universe series by Dolores Cannon, and I'm in book one, and I'm listening on audio, and there's this part where they were talking about in Atlantis and just saying like, well, everybody was it was just a part of their education to develop their psychic skills, their psychic abilities. It's just as much as you would learn to read or walk. It's just a part of it, because you do need to develop it too. As much as some people may have it kind of turned on and it's a talent, you still have to develop it. And so that's part of your calling, isn't it?
Yeah,
I love it.
That. I really want to do that. I know I know everything happens in its perfect time, and so I don't ever really question, but sometimes I wish that I could have gotten this all figured out before, when my kids were still little, because I just think it would be really fun to raise magic little kids.
You can't have another one.
I can't.
Okay. Well, and anyway, yes, you are raising magic kids anyway, because you're going to get to experience that with the work that you do with others. And so do you have people who are coming to you with it? I mean, is that something that's already naturally becoming a part of your work, is people who have the kids they're tuned in and they need some support on it?
Yeah, my main goal is to really work in the community that I'm in, and maybe the surrounding ones, because I want to be able to. With children, it's different. Like sitting on a computer, I don't know, maybe this day and age, they're like, whatever, I'd rather sit in front of the computer and not be in front of this lady. But I would really like to do more of like a hands-on, and like have them come in and sit with other kids and, work with them like that. But I do, when I first announced that, hey, guess what? This is me and this is what I'm doing now. I got a couple private messages from people that I've known for years. And they're like, I've always thought about reaching out to you, because I remember when we were kids, you da-da-da-da, and my son and my daughter now have this, and this. And so, do you think you'd be able to talk to them? And so I'm like, yeah, but then COVID hit and everything. So I haven't had that opportunity yet, but we're actually in the works. I have a friend of mine who I'm actually going to start working with her daughter in the next couple months.
Cool. Really cool. So I want to ask you about the Golden Heart. That's the name of your Golden Heart Healing, is the name of your business, Amanda Ray Golden Heart Healing, right? Do I have it right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what is the significance? What's around that? Is this another inspiration that came during meditation? And
yeah, I was meditating one day, and this was a long time ago, and Spirit's like, you're going to have your own business. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this meditation. And they said, you're going to call it Golden Heart Healing. And I wrote it down. Didn't really think too much of it, because at that time I wasn't 100% sure that, I was still learning about me and trying to figure out how all my gears switched and turned and flipped on and off and everything. And so I just kind of put that in my back pocket and waited. And then I really started getting that nudge to start a program, an outreach, basically, to be able to help people feel comfortable about who they are in their skin, because that's really what connecting with my intuitive abilities did for me. And so Golden Heart Healing, it's broad. And sometimes I'm like, we could just like hone it down and maybe define it a little bit more. But really, when I look at what I do, when I look at what I do, you really can't put it in a couple classifications. And really, that's what it is. It is that healing. And whether it's through mediumship reading and talking to people and really bringing them healing that way, or if it's doing like the soul spark reading, which is an intuitive reading. And a lot of what happens is it's literally like their higher self and their soul comes out and says, this is what I really am struggling with. Let's clear that up. So we address those things. And, so it's interesting, because it's all encompassing. And I'm just going to go with that name until they tell me otherwise.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's such beautiful imagery, and I really love it. And so, well, you took the Intuitive Intensive, which is, for those of you, if you're new to the podcast, it's a 12-week immersive program that myself and Crystal Anne Compton, my best friend, and I run. And we actually are about to open registration for the 2021 Intuitive Intensive, the program will begin in January. So was 2018 when you took the Intuitive Intensive? Or was it
was
17?
the 2019.
19. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so leading up to the intuitive intensive, you had, what was your journey like? You had started meditating, and talk about like, if for people who are like, well, gosh, I don't know how to do meditation or that ancestral healing on myself, the way that Amanda is talking about it. How did you start to get into meditation and figure out how to have that relationship in that way?
Well, it started with needing my time to myself in the evenings. I started really realizing when I'd drive to work, I'm fine. When I drive home, I'm really heavy and I'm wearing everybody's, I would explain it as like fishing vests. They'd come in and they'd take off their vest and I'd put it on and they'd feel better and they'd leave. And then the next person, I'd put on their vest and they'd leave. And all day long, like I just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier.
You're like a foot shorter at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'm short anyway, so that doesn't help. And so I would come home and I would sit in the bathtub for like an hour and I would drain the water and then refill it back up if I wasn't getting ready to get back out. Wow. And I started just listening to music, just calming, whatever I wanted to at the beginning. And then I'd heard about meditation and I'm like, my chatter mind, and there's no way. And so I decided to try the guided ones. And those really helped keep me focused. And I would do very, very short, start at like 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes just the breathing ones. And then after that, I really didn't start to really expand it until I got into the intuitive intensive. And you guys talked a little bit more about how it's okay to have thoughts, you don't have to be there and completely empty-minded. And I ended up scolding myself the whole time, trying to get empty-minded. So, but I still wasn't very, I don't want to say good at meditating, but I gave it my best shot. And I did feel a little bit better as I did that. So it did help because it helped me to quiet my mind. I was in a different Facebook community and they would post pictures of loved ones. And I would always just look and things would pop in and I never wrote things down. I never commented. But the one time I commented, I got almost every single thing right. And I had been meditating for just a very short while. But what I noticed was some of the inspirational thoughts that come in through meditation, or just like the, hey, it's okay, stop yelling at yourself kind of voices, was the very same tone that would come through in when I would, write down if I was looking at somebody's picture and that information came through. Yeah. And that was where I was like, there's a connection there. What is this? And so I signed up for the course and found out what that was.
That's so awesome. So 2019, so that led you up to the intuitive intensive. It was like you had just started to kind of dabble around with readings. You had been meditating for a while, intuitive intensive, career.
Yeah.
But what's so cool about that? It can happen really pretty quickly because once again, like there's these different ways that Spirit has kind of explained it. Is first of all, you've been doing it your whole life. You just have. And so even though you think you shut it down and you weren't and all that, then on the other hand, you've been doing other things that are professional, like, and not necessarily the other skills that we're building. That becomes a part of this career too. You know what I mean? Like you are hacking all of your skills, not to mention that as a hairdresser, you're a creative. You know what I mean? You're channeling the shape that you're actually putting in their haircut. You know what I mean? Even though you have skills and tools. So you get to use all of the parts of your life. So it can just kind of happen like boom, boom, boom. Once you say yes to it and lean in and get consistent with it too. That's kind of, consistency is way more important than I think anything else, right? When you're making shift. Yeah,
absolutely. And then it was interesting too, because it was in the beginning of that course, really, when I realized that sometimes people will come in and they would sit in my chair and I would just, they would be like, I don't even know what to do. What do I do? And I would just words, just words and words and loads of words. And then I would get done and I would be like, what did I even say? I don't even remember. And she'd be like, that was so good. Okay, great.
Just
I don't remember what I said.
Just channeling, that's all.
Yeah. So it was neat to be able to connect all of those things that I literally did all the time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess what validated it and made me feel more comfortable in my own skin was the fact that they all had names. You know, we like to label and name everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once I knew that, oh, that's actually a thing. That's not like a weird thing that I do. That's like a thing. I felt okay with that all of a sudden. So
yeah, once again, finding your community that, oh gosh, that can really expedite. Well, it makes you feel normal. Yeah, if you know 100 people that have similar, not exactly the same, but have similar experiences as you, then suddenly you can be more embodied. You can feel good in your skin, as you say. So it makes a huge difference. Well, this has been so amazing, and you're just such a light. That's what I have to say. We've been working together so closely lately, and you have so much integrity. You're so smart, and you're so heart-centered. It's just like such a wonderful combination, and you're such a blessing to me, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing all the things that you do, because you have taught me that it's okay to be this way. So you can't put a price tag on that.
More than okay. It's wonderful.
Yeah. You'll forever be part of my story. You know, when people ask, I'll say, oh, well, I took this class by these two fantastic women, and then the rest is history. So.
Oh, it's so wonderful. What an honor. What a blessing. And you have a gift for the people who listen to if they want to book with you. We want to check the description, because you have a promo code for people to be able to get 10% off if they put that promo code in when they check out. And I highly recommend, if you do the Soul Spark, or you do a mediumship reading, or you do some energy healing, I really recommend that you go work with Amanda, because she is incredibly talented, gifted, has a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and just heart, that golden heart of hers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been super fun.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You'll have to come back again.
Absolutely.
Well, I had the most fun with Amanda. She is such a light. She's such an inspiration. And she is offering everyone who listens to this podcast 10% off a service with her. You can find it in the description, and it will be with the promo code CHARM10, CHARM10. I also wanted to let you know that I have my Mystic Arts Academy. The next workshop is Telepathy and Empathy, the language for the intuitive age. Check out the link below to see how you can subscribe for 2 workshops every month. And we have at least one meditation that we meet live, and I lead and channel it live with everyone. And then you'll also get an MP3 produced download of that meditation. It's at least once per month on the meditation. Sometimes it's 2, 3, or 4 times per month, every week, sometimes. But one is guaranteed. I guess that is it for this episode, you guys. I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.